right, welcome to another day of the DQ Labs. Welcome to another day of the DQ Labs design conversations or live conversations, which we have on Mondays. Today we are talking about the UCEED 2022 preparation strategy. You have just about 3 months to answer the UCEED exam, and Sean from DQ Labs, he's the co-founder of DQ Labs. He would be taking this session for you. And Sean, over to you. Okay, we're looking for a very interactive session, so please keep asking your questions. And Sean, over to you.
Thank you, Dion. Good evening, all participants. So today we're going to be talking about UCEED, giving you all, making you all understand a strategy, making you all understand how best you can tackle, prepare for this exam, and it's not far away. So let's dive into this. If there's any questions, you can always ask me in the chat box, and I can answer all your questions. Okay, just give me a minute while I share my screen. Dion, can you see my screen?
Yeah, sure. Your screen is there.
Okay, fine. Great. So your UCEED exam is coming up on the 23rd of Jan, right? So even if you start preparing now, you still can do very well and crack this exam. And it is being held by IIT Bombay. They always host and conduct this exam. So today, these are all the different points I will be covering. Important links where you can get them, announcements, a quick thing about participating and sharing results with result sharing institutes. A lot of students ask me questions on that. Breakup and pattern of the exam, benchmark and last year's cutoff. Now this is very important. Benchmark and last year's cutoff, you must understand here. Okay, last year, how much did students get into crack? How much do I need to get into? I mean, how much do I need to score in part A out of 250? Okay, how much do I need to score in? How much do I need to score in part B out of 60? Right, to crack this exam. Okay. So that's an important part, the benchmark. You got to listen to that and you need to understand that very carefully. Okay. Then we go into examples on type of questions per section, right? And we will go into a strategy, a quick strategy as to how you can prepare for this exam. Please remember, it's not about studying hard, it's about studying hard and studying smart. Okay, so that's what it's all about. And any reference links or question and answers. In fact, after every section along the way, I can keep it open, or if there's any questions that pop up there, I can answer your questions. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this whole pattern. Now, before we go ahead, this is an important link that you need to go through, the UCEED IIT Bombay link, right? And this must be very familiar with you, and you should be able to go to this link out here, and you should, there are different things, important dates, information brochures, and downloads. Okay, so you must look at all these things. You must be familiar with this important dates. So when you go here, it shows you all important dates out here, which is extremely important for you all to know. Okay, it also, if you go back here, it takes you to the information brochure. The information brochure gives you all information for UCEED out here, which you must consult. So this is a very important website. Okay, and at the same time you have downloads here, and also you have the announcements. So if you scroll down, there are announcements of any important information, any important updates. So this is something that you need to be extremely familiar with. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so Going ahead, y'all are pretty lucky. This year, IIT Bombay is started off with the program. They're launching the BTS program, so fantastic. That would add a couple of more seats to the whole program, right? Because previously it was only Delhi, Guwahati, Hyderabad, besides Triple IT, DM Jabalpur, but now it's fantastic that even IIT has opened up and therefore opening an extra number of seats there for the BDES program. Okay, so a quick look at the seat matrix, right? So if you look at the screen here, it's also given in the brochure, which I just showed you in the link. The total number of seats and also the seats per category. Okay, so the seats per category is what you can get from this matrix. So now there's also, if you go through the brochure, there's something known as result sharing institutes. So there is participating institutes. You can see the top 5 they're participating, and the second is a result sharing institute. Okay, so the results sharing institute is basically these institutes also get the UCEED results, but if you are above a certain rank, some of these institutes will exempt you from their round 1, but they may still have a round 2 or things like that. But you still have to apply to the other institutes individually. Okay, so you might have some advantage based on your rank. Like I said, let's say for example, if you're between 1 to 600, some schools will say you are exempt from writing their entrance exam. You only have to write the you only have to attend their interview. Okay, so that is the benefit of these result sharing institutes that you have out here. Okay, so let's go to the next section, which is the pattern of the exam. Okay, so you have part A for 2.5 hours, and you have part B for half an hour, 30 minutes. So the total exam is for 3 hours, right? And part A is, you have the numerical answer type, you have the multiple select and the multiple choice questions. Okay, and you do not have negative marking for NAT, but there is negative marking in MSQ and MCQ. Okay, and part B is sketching. So if your strength is sketching, then you know, you can play that to your advantage. I will also discuss a little later on here benchmarking. You remember I spoke about benchmarking against marks. Some students are not very strong in drawing. So the question is, I'm not very strong in drawing. Can I still get into IIT, at least IIT Guwahati? Some will say, my drawing is very strong. My part B is not that strong. So what's the least amount of marks you can get into part B in part A if your drawing is strong? We will discuss these cases. But ideally, of course, if part A and part B is strong, obviously it's a bonus for you. But I've had students who got, you know, less marks in each section, but still getting through into IIT Guwahati. Let's discuss cases, different cases. Okay, fine. We shall go ahead. Now, there is a minimum cutoff mark. Okay, for part A. This means that if you do not cross that minimum cutoff marks in part A, your part B paper will not be corrected. Okay, so what is this minimum cutoff? Now this minimum cutoff slightly varies from year to year. Okay, but for the last year, so what I've put here is I've put some marks here for the last year so that you know approximately what is the cutoff mark. So therefore, as per the last year, if in open category or general category, if you got a 68.35 and above out of 240, okay, 68.35 and above out of 240 in part A, only then your part B paper will be corrected. Otherwise, your part B paper will not be corrected in the first place, and it will be written there, you do not qualify. So at least if you cross the 68.35 and your part B will be corrected, and you will get a qualification mark. At least you will get a rank, right? Some rank. This is, for you to understand what is the minimum cutoff marks. And of course, they do not have any re-evaluation or retotaling. So keep that in mind before the results come out. Okay. Next, okay, so now comes the interesting part, right? So something I need you all to really pay attention on. What are the minimum cutoff marks that you can get to still get a seat? I'm talking about getting a seat. I'm not talking about qualifying UCEED. I'm talking about actually getting a seat in one of the IITs, okay? So this is extremely important. So therefore, if, let's say, for example, if your total is close to 160, that is 160 out of 300, okay? Remember this. The first, second, third, fourth row. Can you see fourth row, rank 66, okay? For first row is rank 4, second row rank 42, third row rank 43, and fourth row is rank 66. So if you hit rank 66, you still have a very good chance of getting into one of the IITs. And of course, now with IIT Delhi in the picture, you can even go up to rank, say, 76, okay? You still can get into there. So if your total is 160 out of 300, you can still get a seat. Now, why am I stressing on this is because a lot of students in their mind, they think they need to get like really high marks, out of 300, you need to get like, I don't know, because you're used to your traditional exams, 96%, 97%. So they think you need to get like 250, 270. That's not true, okay? Because, I spoke to a student once who was getting, in their practice test, was getting 130 out of 240, part A, 130 out of 240. And the student was a little disappointed and thought that they have no chance. But I said, if you're getting 130, you actually have a high chance. So that means if you take a mock test, okay, take a UCEED mock test, and if you're able to get 120, right, in a UCEED mock test, part A, I'm talking about part A, okay, then you do have a good chance of getting a seat. I'm not talking about like qualifying for UCEED. I'm talking about getting a seat in one of the IITs. Why? Because if you get 120 in your part A, and if you get a 40 in your part B, so that totals up to 160. So which helps you to get a seat. So let's look at the following kind of marks here from students, say last year. Rank 4 got a total of 201 out of 300, and just FYI, rank 151 was close to a 146. But like I said, if you're getting 160 out of 300, then you are you are safe, okay? So if you look at the part A sections and part B sections, so even if you score very high in part B, let's say for example you score 48 out of 60, right? So you can even go as low as 112 in your part A, okay, and still get a seat in confirmed seat. Yeah. So, but of course, like for example, like rank 4, if not only your part A marks are good, but even if part B marks are good, but even if your part A marks are good, then obviously that's an ideal situation. So talking about highest marks, let's say highest marks for part B drawing, I've seen students getting even up to 56 out of 60. That's like really high, okay? So therefore, the point I'm trying to make here by telling you a student can get up to 56 out of 60 in drawing, that means if your drawing is strong, you can really, it can really pull up your marks here, okay, and pull up your rank, right? So this is an important slide here. So I hope you're able to understand this, and we can go ahead. Okay, so now going ahead. Okay, so I want to so in this slide, I want to understand the importance of part B here. So if you're saying part B, 56 out of 60, that means you can almost score about 93% in that section, okay? Whereas part A, even if you scored 160 out of 240, that is 66% of that section, okay? And you've still done extremely well if you score 160. What I'm trying to bring here to your notice on the slide is that part A is difficult, yeah. So even if you miss a couple of questions, even if you don't answer a couple of questions, don't be scared. Okay, your outcomes can still be fantastic, and you wouldn't know it. I've had cases last year where students think they've done badly, but like if somebody calculates and says, oh, I got only 150 or only 140, you think you've done badly. You might have actually done very well. Okay, so you need to relax and take it easy. It will help you in the exam so you won't get tensed, because even if you don't answer all the questions, and even if you don't, I mean, you get a reasonable amount of marks in part A, you can still sail through. But the test here is in your practice sessions, when you're practicing before the exam, right? Please ensure that you're crossing 120. Okay, if you're crossing 120 or anything above, just makes it better and better for you. Okay. So, like I said, it's about working hard, understanding a good strategy, and also being smart about how you go about it. Okay, so it will be extremely helpful. Another analysis here is that if you look at row 4, right? I'm just trying to stress the importance of part B. If you're good here, and you can score well. So part B, 48. If you see on the row 4, a student has got 112 in part A and 48 in part B out of a total of 160. So if you see, 48 is what percentage of 160? It's 30%, okay? Which means that in the exam, drawing is 60 out of 300, right? 60 out of 300, which is like 20%, right? But in reality, you can use it to your advantage, because for this student it was 30% of their overall marks. So even if you see in rank 4, it's still 23.7%, which is still higher than the if you take it mark for mark section out of 300. Okay, so strategy, right? So once if you've understood all that, so now let's try and understand a basic strategy, right? So obviously, before you start studying, I'm saying before you even start studying, make sure that you solve at least minimum one UCEED paper, okay? And here's the important part. Solving this paper is not like to check, it's not to see, oh, how good are you, how good am I, and how much am I getting out of 240 or 300. It's got nothing to do with that, okay? This is not to check your marks, but this is to understand the pattern of the paper. It is to understand the type of questions being asked. It is to understand the range of questions being asked. It is to understand the difficulty level of the questions. It is to study the paper itself, right? It is to study the questions rather than trying to find out how good you are. Now, why I'm saying this is because a lot of students kind of study and prepare first, and then they keep all these exams with very question papers, past year's question papers, very safely, and they'll answer them in the end. So what will happen is when you actually end up answering a paper and you realize, oh, it's completely different from what you're studying, right? Or it's completely different from what you're focusing on. You've wasted so much of time. Whereas if you answer one or two papers before you start studying, it gives you a good bird's eye view. It gives you a good understanding of what you're getting into. It gives you a good understanding to what to look for, way to pay attention, and things like that. So extremely important that you answer at least one or two papers even before you start studying, okay? Answer them over and over again, okay? Because the part A is quite tricky, and the more you practice, the more better you get. Now, point number 2, very interesting, is that solve all past years UCEED and SEED papers. Now you might be confused here. Why SEED papers? SEED papers is for PG students. Okay, it's UCEED is for UG students, but the part A or section 1, the level of aptitude is quite similar. So it makes sense for you to answer both UCEED and SEED papers, because you're doubling the amount of information out there for you, right? You're doubling the amount of practice for you, the authentic questions practice for you. So make sure that I'm not talking about SEED part B. I'm not talking about the design solving problems or the drawing questions for the PG. I'm talking about the part A. So if you go through those past papers, which are all there, it's double the amount of information. Okay, you will, in fact, even if you solve SEED and UCEED even once in 15 days, you may not finish one paper in 15 days. You still won't finish them before the exam. Okay, that's like 2 papers a month. So you got to do more than that. So you got so much of information out there that will help you tremendously. Okay. Understand the syllabus carefully from the online brochure. So the online brochure is there. Understand the syllabus very carefully. Okay, fine. Now, before the exam, another part of the strategy. Before the exam, they are going to release this interface. Okay, so it is extremely important that you go through this interface over and over again, your exam interface, where to click, what to click. You have to answer that. You have to remember. You have to try and understand. If you look to the the right bottom corner of the screen, there are answered, green, not answered, marked, answered and marked for review. Okay, so there's different combinations out there. So you need to understand carefully all this before the exam. It's not that you're going there and using the interface there for the first time. Okay, so it will be tremendously helpful for you. So they always open this just before the exam for you to play around with or get familiar with, right? And then you need to be very familiar with it. Now, another strategy here will be like many students in the past, like toppers, have spoken to them, and they would say in part A, try and answer NAT or MCQ first, right? Yes, of course, there is negative marking in MCQ, but you know that there are only 4 answers and it has to be 1 correct out of that. Or NAT, sometimes you're counting some figures or something, and you can get a definite answer there. So, but MSQ can tend to be a little tricky. Okay, multiple select, where more than one answer can be right. So, try and attempt NAT and MCQ first. Finish that. Go to MSQ later. So a lot of toppers have said that, and yes, it makes sense, and I also kind of agree with that. And you cannot start part B. Even if you finish part A first, you still have to wait. Only in the last half an hour, part B will get activated on your screen. Okay, so the amount of time given there is the same for all. So part A, best is to go through it all once, answer all the questions that you know first. Go through NAT, go through MCQ. After that, go to MSQ. Answer all the questions that you know. Okay. If you've got slight doubt, or if you're able to guess close to 50-50, you can answer that and mark it for review. Mark it for review is nothing but flagging. Okay, it's like flagging something. You can answer that and mark it for review, and you can always come back to that later. But if you really do not know, you can just mark. Or if you have more doubt, you can just mark it. Don't answer and mark it, because if you answer and mark it, then it will be counted for. It will be counted. Okay. And of course, in NAT, it doesn't matter. You can answer something. You're not going to get there's no negative marking there. And MCQ also, if you're kind of able to guess between the two, you can take a chance. Okay, so it kind of helps by method of elimination. If you're a little more confident, you can mark that. Okay. So remember, this is not really an exam that you can study last minute. It really tests your stamina over a period of time. Yes, of course, there are there are 3 months now, three and a half months, you still can do well, right? So make sure that you practice really hard every day from now to do well in this exam, okay? Okay, now these are basically some questions. I'm going to go through them really fast because these are there on your, in fact, if you either go, if you go to edge.dqlabs.in and Dion, if you can just paste the link out there for students, edge.dqlabs.in.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, and if you go here under this drop down menu, NID UCEED, and take tests, and under past year's papers, so you have all the past year's papers out here in which you can answer them. They have explanations, and also it kind of takes your it kind of learns your strategy. The software is an award-winning software. We got the NASSCOM award for the software in 2019. It's extremely helpful. So if you go here under past year's question papers, you can get all question papers here. Like say, for example, if you go to UCEED 2021, you have aptitude and you have sketching. Okay, so if you go to the aptitude section, you can go here and you can answer all the questions here that pop up here. Okay. Okay, so another interesting thing is when you answer that, right, whatever the answer may be, let's say, so it'll ask you whether you've got this by formula or by a random value. Okay, means random. Have you thought about it random, or means you have no idea, right? You're just kind of guessing, or you've done it by formula. So you can if you answer this according to the options that it's given out there, right? It also will give you, by method of elimination or by method of, by knowledge or random choice. So if you do that, the software kind of understands the logic of how you're answering the exam, and it kind of helps you. Okay, so that is tremendously helpful. So you all can go there and you can answer all these papers out here. Like I said, take one paper first before you start the exam, and it will be tremendously helpful. And also you can go to sketching part B, and the sketching questions are also put up here. I will discuss these questions in detail. I'll also show you the girl who got 56 out of 60 last year. Her rough sketch is put up here. We will discuss that also. So coming back here, just quickly we will go through these types of questions, but you will always get the types of questions there. So typically NAT type of question is you have to count something, or you have to calculate something, and you have to literally enter a number out there. So count the number of solid cubes, or count the number of shapes, or count the number of rectangles and triangles, and put it up there. Okay, so this is typically your numerical answer type of question. An MSQ is a question which has multiple answers to it. It can be B and A, or A and B, or ACD, or whatever. You have to get them all right for you to get full marks. Okay, so and MCQ, multiple choice, is one of the answers will be correct, so you have to choose the correct answer. Okay, so these are typical MCQ type of questions. Okay, so we'll also go via category wise, like, so there's your visual spatial ability, testing your ability to kind of analyze things in space, spatial ability. Okay, so, or rather something that you can a volume that you can turn around in your mind and analyze it. So visual spatial ability is extremely important test for designers and architects. Okay, so these are very typical kind of visual spatial ability type of questions. You have observation and design sensitivity. Okay, another category. So observation, design sensitivity is cartoon animations and things like that. And one of the type of questions, of course, there are many type of questions, which is a strong pose, which is a weak pose. Um, Interesting. Okay, observation and design sensitivity, analytical and logical reasoning, language and creativity, environmental and social awareness, right? Oh, a lot of students ask me about GK. GK is one area, yes, of course. Uh, you know, Very difficult to get all the topics in one place. I can possibly help you out there. I possibly can guide you. Environmental and social awareness. Uh, that's another topic. Okay. Before we go to part B, I'd like to show you here in Edge. If you go under Learn, right? Under Learn, here there is general knowledge. Can you see that? So if you go to general knowledge here, and if you scroll down to general knowledge list of topics, okay, this thing out here, very important. So all the list of topics have carefully been studied and put down here. So these are literally the questions that have been asked in the last so many years specifically to NID and IIT. Okay, so if you go through this backbone section of the types of questions asked, it will help you tremendously. Or let's say, for example, even if you're referring some external material, like say, for example, a Malayalam Manorama, or if you're studying from the internet, always keep this backbone as a guide, right? Because it will help you say, okay, in what am I looking for in GK, it should be under these topics. So say, for example, if you see types of Indian paintings, right? So even examples of exactly the questions that have been asked in the past have here. So if you kind of go through this, it will tremendously cut short a lot of your time and effort for general knowledge. So a lot of students ask me, okay, where can I get general knowledge, or where can I get reference for general knowledge? So it's very difficult, especially for UCEED and NID, to get them in one place. So it's listed here on Edge, and you can use this as a reference. Whether you can use this directly, or if you're studying from any other source, ensure that you use it from a reference. Because if you're studying other topics other than what is mentioned here, you can waste a lot of time. Okay. So that will also help you tremendously out here. Before we go to part B, I would like to discuss part B in detail. But before that, Dion, Dion, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Could you share your screen, and Dion will show you how you can use and check analysis on DQH for part A. Before we go to part B. So then part B section, I will show you, some examples of some work and some toppers of what they've done and things like that. Okay, Dion, can you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can hear me and you can see my screen, Sean?
Yes, Dion, I can. Yes.
Yeah. Right. So the first thing I want to say is, on this YouTube channel, on this particular webinar today, if you go into the description, you will see the important links that are required. So the official UCEED link, past year question papers listed on DQ Edge, and other important links that you can focus on. Do ensure that you follow us on Instagram, and if you'll have a LinkedIn account, you'll follow us there as well. Now, the next thing is, like Sean was mentioning, the aptitude section. So I'm just going to repeat this because it's important. Now, for example, if we take a question, there are only three ways in which you can answer a question. One is you either logically know the answer, or you look at the answer options and then select from that, or the third method is that you randomly choose. So let's say in this method, I randomly choose an answer, right? And here I look at this and I'm eliminating from the answer choices. So I select elimination. And finally, this one, let's say I know the answer, so I'm selecting knowledge. Now, doing this process is very important. The reason is, if you want past year question papers, it's available all over the place, right? You can find past year question papers on the UCEED website as well. But what you really want is intelligence. While you're preparing, it is not only the UCEED paper that you're looking for, but when you take the UCEED paper, you're trying to figure out what are you guessing, what are you what did you actually understand, and what you think you understood and got wrong, right? So when a report, after you finish the test and you generate the answers, the answer reports are generated for both section 1 and section 2. All right, so let's say the section 1 report. Now you not only come to know, now in this case I've taken the test and I've scored a 98 out of 120, which is good, right? But my actual score is 74, and the 24 marks I've got because of random guessing, right? Now if I take this test on any other platform, I will not get this intelligence. So that's where it is very important to take this test on this platform and in the manner it's meant to be taken, right? Now what you need to focus on, now just knowing, okay, I'm good in this, I'm not good in that, that is also not enough. You need to understand what you need to do on priority, right? So the first set of analytics tells you what your current level of preparation is. Your second set of analytics tells you what action to take, right? So whatever is in red, these are the cards that you need, these are the topics that you need to focus on first, because you have completely misunderstood these topics, right? Once you do that, then you get into these other topics, which are scoring topics, where you may have got one right or one wrong, or you may have used a process of elimination to use this, which means you have some idea of this, but you may have made, small errors. And finally you get the information of topics which you don't need to prepare, spend time preparing for, because you have mastered these topics already. So these are where, and of course there are other analytics as well, but in a nutshell, this is what is critical. Now if you do have the patience to go through these analytics, that will be great. But if you don't have the patience, all right, and someone was asking, are there questions with answer explanations? Yes, the answer explanations are given after all the when you review your answers, you'll get the answer explanations here. Now the next thing is, now in case you're the type who really likes to go in and understand deeply, which we recommend, then follow these instructions. But if you really don't have too much time, you just click on this and it'll take you to that particular topic which you need to. Basically, you get the suggestions over here itself in the take a test section. You'll get these suggestions here, and these are pretty much related to the same topics that you need to work on. All right, so these are very important things, and the reason why you need to do that is you get the intelligence, which is critical for your preparation. Your time is limited. You only need to focus on specific things where you need to improve, right? Don't waste your time studying anything randomly. That's the point of DQH. All right, so the other thing is, just follow us on Instagram, because it's very important. Or we give a lot of updates over here, so it's important that you follow us. Make sure that you watch on our YouTube channel. There is a folder called DQ Labs Conversations, where we give exam tips and discussions with our toppers. Please follow these. Watch these tips, especially with our NID and IIT students. That will help you out a lot. Finally, there is the design hackathon which we are conducting. Now it's very important that all of y'all participate in this design hackathon. Tomorrow is the last day for the early bird discount, so please register your teams today. In case you do not have a team, uh, you can probably I'll share the Telegram link in the in the um, in the chat box. You can click on that and you can post a format there where you can find your team. All right, maybe you can team up with someone and find a team, right? Sean, over to you.
Okay, Dion, thank you. Extremely important point what Dion mentioned was that um, in the YouTube channel, there is go to this conversations, Monday conversations, and there is toppers that speak, right? So it's extremely important that all the past year toppers, you go and like this. There are many videos of them giving you a lot of tips and information on both NID and UCEED. Extremely important. Okay, so let's go ahead to part B of the section. So I'll go through part B another 10 minutes, and then we'll open it out for questions. Any questions you all have, you all can ask. Okay, so part B. Okay, so besides the question in part B, it's important to note that in the question paper, right, they will also give you a certain set of evaluation criteria. So they will mention. So if you see below the question, right, there is a note, make pencil sketches only. So if they're saying make pencil sketches, please stick to that. Do not try to use color, because you'll just end up wasting a lot of time, and the same amount of time you can use to spend time on that sketch and throw in more detail. So just stick to only a pencil sketch. Okay, do not use colors. And also they're giving you evaluation criteria here, which is basically observation, imagination, selection and composition of objects, quality of line, presentation, attention to detail. So it's all here. So just try when you're practicing, ensure that at least for these images that you try and give special attention to these criteria. Okay. So this, I told you I'll show you a sketch which got 56 out of 60. So this is a student who sketch. So this is drawn in half an hour. Okay, so who got 56 out of 60. Okay, so the details were given there. Let's quickly have a look at the details of the question. So you are sitting in a well-ventilated drawing room. It is 9 in the morning. There is sunlight coming through the window on the east, casting shadows on the floor. There's a cat resting in one of the sunlight patches. A newspaper is placed beside a cup of hot tea and on a small side table. There are 3 freshly watered potted plants in the room, 1 on the floor and 2 on the windowsill. And there is a watering jug next to it. Okay, so you've got to draw this scene. Okay, so an example. Of course, this is not the exact drawing what the student did in the exam. The student came back and kind of replicated the drawing. So in the exam, I mean, obviously should have put in a little more effort, and it would be a little better than this in terms of shadow and sunlight and things like that. Whenever you ask somebody to replicate the drawing later, they're not as focused and concentrated as at what they did, but this is more or less representing what she did in the exam. So if you want an example of a drawing that gets 56 out of 60, so here is a good example. There's a lot of interesting detail here. There's a lot of little things thrown in, and the perspective is nice and correct. So good observation, good detail, and you can see the wind flowing through the curtains. You can see some fluidity, and you can see that little child drawing on the wall there, little scribble there. You can see the cat, and so it's very important that you practice these human and animal figures. You're well practiced with it, and besides your perspective, and it is all thrown in there. So this is a good example for 2021. So another example for 2020, right? In fact, so far only twice they've asked for drawing. So 2022 will be the 3rd time that they're asking for drawing. Before 2020, there was no drawing in UCEED. So this is another previous paper which describes a professor's table which is a mess, and it's got books and papers all over it, and she's eating something, and she's receiving a phone call, and all that detail in there. Okay, so draw it from the teacher's point of view. You can go through this in detail. In fact, it's put up there on Edge. Okay, so once again, they have specifically said make pencil sketches only, do not use colors, and do not draw the professor itself, just draw the table. Okay, I mean, yes, of course, maximum you can draw the hands coming in or something like that, but basically don't show the focus on the environment. and they've given you evaluation criteria. So this is an example of a sketch of what some students had done, right? Just to show you. So it doesn't show it now. It doesn't say don't draw somebody else in the room, right? So sometimes you can do that, right? Even if you can take your creative license and put in some extra, throw in some extra things out there. So just to show you some examples. Now, if you want more examples, you can go back here. There are a lot of examples. If you go to past year's papers, and if you go to NID 2021 section B for sketching, once you only if you answer the paper, you have to draw, upload, and rate yourself. Can you see the rating parameters to the right? And only after you do that, if you scroll down, you will be able to see other students' works. Okay, so there's a lot of other students' works here. So you literally can go scroll down and see so many more examples of work. Okay, yeah. So this is a good example of going down and scrolling down and seeing a lot of other students' work. Okay. So go back here, past his papers, go back to 2021, sketching, all right, and you scroll down and you can see a lot of other students' work. So scroll on all of them and you can get them as examples, okay? So one out here, this is interesting. Okay, I like this, this is interesting. Can you see outside, there's like honk and beep and like as if there's a traffic jam on the outside. Interesting. Okay, there's a cat sleeping out there, whatever. So going through all these examples here will help you tremendously. Okay, so similarly for even for 2020, you can have examples out there. Okay, great. So there's only 10 minutes more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it open for questions. Do you all have questions? If you have any questions, you can type it there in the chat box. I will try and answer your questions. Okay, so since we have not much time, you can start off with your questions.
Yeah, the questions are on the YouTube channel.
Hold on. Okay, dear, let me try and see.
Your WhatsApp has it.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay. Just give me a minute. I will pull up the questions. In the meanwhile, I'll just show you in here, 2020, section 2. And then if you scroll down here, you can get a lot of sample questions. Okay, just give me a minute. I will pull up the questions. Hang on.
Yeah, at this stage, I just want to mention that it's very important that you learn from each other. All right. Now, DQ Edge gives you the option of learning from each other. Now, only after you give your submission, then you can see each other's submission. Now, it's very important that you start rating your peer group as well, because when you rate your peers, you put yourself in the shoes of a faculty and you start evaluating somebody else, or you could even evaluate yourself. Now, the important thing that happens there is that you start understanding what the expectations of a faculty is, right? And then as you keep doing this process again and again, then you start thinking like a faculty, and then you'll be able to know what needs to be delivered when a question is asked. So a very important aspect, right?
Okay. I got the questions here. I can continue. Sorry, you want to say something?
No, you can go on.
Okay, fine. So first question by Gayatri G. Was this done in 30 minutes? Yes, this was done in, no, this was done in less than 30 minutes. I mean, the question, what the student has drawn here, but yes, to answer your question, this much was done within 30 minutes, okay, and a little more extra with a little more sunlight and things like that. So therefore, speed, okay, you got to go really, really fast. So that's something that I need to really stress on, that heavy practice is what you require. Gayatri, I hope that answers your question. Ananya, Ananya Datta, any strategies for which questions not to attempt due to negative marking? Okay, so like I said, not to attempt due to negative marking. Um, I would say go for NAT first. There is no negative marking there. So even if you've semi-guessed or close to it, you can just put in a number and you can flag it, right? Or mark for review. But you're not going to get negative marking for that. The MCQ, you can take a chance, okay? Because it is like if you just score random, it's 25%, 1 in 4. And you know that in generally in MCQ, 1 will be obviously wrong. So technically it's 1 in 3, right? So that's 33%. And even among that, if you use, in many cases, you can get the logic, you can kind of estimate, you can kind of, eliminate between the two. And you literally can push your chances up to 50-50. You can take a bigger risk in MCQ, okay? MSQ, on the other hand, can be quite tricky because there's a lot of combination there because there's just, it's not just 1 in 4, it's a lot more possibility, okay? So therefore, I would say MSQ, keep it for the last. Answer what you know. If you do not know, don't guess too much in MSQ. So that would be a strategy for your negative marking. And also in terms of strategy, like have one quick run, go through all the questions once, answer all that you know, then come for the second run and come for the third run, okay, in which you're flagged or kept for review. So second run, third run, just go only what you're flagged, okay? So that will help you do that. But don't, if something is difficult, if you're struggling with something, just leave it, go to the next question, okay? Do not waste your time there. Like I said, you can still score quite less and still get good marks, okay? Okay, Avalanche said, it is said that the window's on the east, but this is the one to the west. Okay, Avalanche, it all depends on whether you're facing south or whether you're facing north. Okay, so it really doesn't. If you're like facing south, east will be to your left. If you're facing north, east will be to your right. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. The window can be on each side, either side. All you need to ensure is that it's like 9 o'clock in the morning, so that the angle of the sunlight, right? You need to ensure that you get that at maybe a 45-degree angle. Okay, so that is important. I hope that answers your question. Yin Song Kun, how much did this person score? This particular person scored 56 out of 60. Like I said, it's not the exact, obviously it's a replication of what this person did in the exam, okay? And I think in the exam this student did even better than this, okay? Vishwanathan, Vishwanathan, how to get maximum marks in part B? Creativity or neatness? Which will be given importance in part B? Okay. Vishwanathan V. First of all, you can, I'm going back to the evaluation criteria here. So if you're saying creativity versus neatness, if I had to pick between the two, I would say creativity. Okay, creativity, if I had to pick exactly between the two. Of course, everything helps, but I would think creativity, observation, like if you look at creativity, if you look at this drawing here, see how the window is flowing because of the wind. See the little child's painting on the wall, like as if one small child is drawn with the crayons thrown down. Can you see the cracks on the wall? I think definitely creativity and observation. Observation to detail is also part of how creatively you are able to put in all that, okay? And what is equally important is ratio, proportion, and perspective. Okay, if you get this right, even if it's not so neat, right, you will still get very high marks. Okay, so yes, but if you can get all of them right, nothing like it, you will get more marks. Okay, yeah, nothing like getting everything right. So, Tapasya Rao, should we upload our drawings on to see other drawings? Yes. So how it works for DQ Labs is you have to upload your drawing and you've got to rate yourself and plus submit before you can see other students' drawings. So we would encourage you to upload your work, and then of course you can see other students who are sharing their work. Okay. Anant Kaushik, do drawings have maximum details? Not really understood your question. If you're asking me, do you have to throw in as much? Yes, you have to throw in as much as detail as you possibly can. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Okay. Okay. Vaidehi is asking me an interesting question. Can you please suggest the division of time you could spend on each section? So Vaidehi, yeah. So if you go back to this slide, okay, the slide out here, can you see the slide? So you know how much of marks per question. So you're getting like number of questions 18 for NET, MSQ 18, and for multiple choice 32, right? And there's a lot of marks there for multiple choice MSQ. That's total of 96 marks. You literally have to just make each one can do their own calculation. You can do whatever is comfortable for you. Divide the number of questions, divide by the number of marks by the total amount of questions, 240, and you yourself allocate time that's comfortable for you for each section. Okay, so your hint here is look at the number of questions, look at the marks per question, and you can allocate your time accordingly. Okay, but generally MCQ you go much faster. NAT can take more time because it's a little more lengthier when you solve it. So you've got to solve a couple of questions. You need to understand how much of time you take per NAT question, how much time you take per MSQ and MCQ question, and accordingly find a strategy that's comfortable for you, but plan it and calculate it and plan it before the exam. Practice your strategy and see what works for you. Okay. Okay, next question. Are there any specific, okay, Shreya Srinivas has asked, are there any specifications to be addressed during the UCEED registration? Okay, that's a long question. I mean, just go through that. If you're having any problems, we have counselors, you can give them a call, you can ask them and they will help you, okay, because you can face many. There's one thing out here, any students who are, we are lucky, foreign students are lucky. I mean, those holding a non-Indian passport, because they have a category this year, and also an interesting point here is they've asked to pay $450 USD. So many students got stuck there because how do you pay in US dollars into their whatever the bank account? You can convert it into rupees and pay. Okay, so a couple of students have called and asked that. So if any NRI or students with a foreign passport, just know that you can pay the $450 in Indian rupee equivalent. Okay, just go online, convert it, pay a little extra, and put it in there. But other than that, there can be a lot of issues during your registration. If you're having a problem, give our counselors a call and they can help you out. Okay. Fine. Let me see. Okay, we do not have much time left. There are a lot of questions coming in. Let me try and answer. Let me just take just one or two questions more since we are running out of time. Okay. Okay, Stephen Samuel. What was answered and marked for review? Does it mean that you can answer it and come back? Okay, interesting question here by Stephen. What is answered and marked for review? Okay, does it mean that you can answer it and come back to check it after you have done other questions? Yes. You can always come back and check it, Stephen. Okay, till the exam, till that 2.5 hours gets over, you can always jump between questions and go back to any question that you've answered before. Okay, so if you literally look at that interface over here, if you look to the top right, all the questions will be displayed, so you can literally go and click any of the question and it will jump to the question. Marked is nothing but flagging a question, like you're saying flag the question. Okay, so you can always come back to that later. Answered and marked for review means that if you have answered it and flagged it, it will be considered. Meaning, if 2.5 hours gets over and your screen closes, whatever you've answered and marked for review will be considered towards your marks. Okay, so that's important, that if you're kind of 60-70% confident that that's the answer, at least write the answer, because if you just mark it for review, you will, and don't fill in the answer, you will not get marks for that. Okay, so it's very important. When the interface comes out, go through the interface very carefully and understand that. Okay, just 1 or 2 questions more. Unfortunately, I wish I could answer all your questions, but in case I don't, you can always get in touch with us and then we can answer your questions later on. Okay. Okay. Sanjana Prasad, I saw a question related to physics, but also the UCEED syllabus didn't mention anything like that. Sanjana, sometimes you see questions that kind of look like physics, or you can see pulleys and levers and gears and things like that. Yes, there's a little bit of mechanics and things like that. Some of them can be answered by aptitude. That means even if you do not know, you can sometimes answer this. Okay, it depends on question to question. Best is to go through the past year's question papers, go through all the sample questions which are there on Edge, and that will help you to prepare better. Okay, yeah, so they can just add a little bit here and they deviate a bit, so be careful. Okay, they can, but most of them look like science questions, look like physics type of questions, but they can be answered logically. Okay, go through the question carefully and maybe you will understand better. Okay. Vishwanath V, will there be perspective question like in 2020 and 2021, or a different question for 2022? Okay, interesting. For part B, they have mentioned about product sketches in the brochure. Do you think it can come? Well, the answer is there can be surprises. So please be ready for a product sketch. Please be ready for an environment sketch. Okay, be practicing both. So Vishwanath, there has been, if I had to go the way NID has been throwing and testing students, the best way is to be well prepared across a spectrum. Don't generally stick to what you've done. So if something comes like a surprise, you have to be prepared. Don't get shocked. Just take it as a challenge and go ahead and do that. So the answer is yes, you can expect a variation. Okay. Gayatri, what do you mean by partial marking? It is there on the screen and you can go through the brochure. Okay, go through the brochure, you will get more details. They have given you a lot more details about partial marking. Okay, there's a whole page on it and you can get more information there. That will take some time, so you can go through that. Ishwar, in the official website of IIT Bombay, they have given that math is not a part of UCEED exam, but there are many math questions in the sample papers. That's part of the subject or not. Ishwar, the answer is if you see it in the past question paper, if you see it in it's there in the past question paper, then they're going to ask it. Okay, so if small math questions have been asked, if it is there in the math question in the past question paper, anything between 2015 and 2021, then study that. It will come. Okay. Do any of the IIT institutes? Okay, Pooja Balaji, do any of the IIT institutes have any stream requirements? Yes, they do, such as science, commerce, or humanities. Good question. IIT Guwahati. Only IIT Guwahati insists on PCM in your 12th. That means students who don't have PCM in 12th grade at this point of time cannot apply to IIT Guwahati, but you can apply to Bombay, Hyderabad, and Delhi. Okay, Delhi, I don't think I don't think they're going to have that requirement, but their rules and regulations are going to come out soon. Unfortunately, IIT Guwahati still sticks to that. Hopefully, in the next 1-2 years, they will remove that. So even if you're from humanities or any other equivalent for IIT Bombay, Hyderabad, and Delhi, you can apply as of today. Okay, fine. Tia Patel, can you share this PPT with us? Tia Patel, this recording will be there online. You can access it anytime you want. Okay, so this whole recording is online. You can go through every slide You can go through, you can rewind forward, everything is going to be there. So it's all there online, okay, on the YouTube channel. It's being recorded, so it will be there on the channel. Okay, you
Sean,
can all,
if we can come to the end of this, um, if you can just give a last closing statement on time
okay,
management,
interesting. Ah,
because a lot of students, they say, oh, I did I did well, but I didn't have enough time, or I didn't have sufficient time.
two
So if you can
questions.
address that.
Yes, exact. I will do that. One is so Aditya and all who are asking which is the best BDES branch for product design. All these questions we'll answer. We have a lot of other forums. If you're not answered your questions, you can always give us a call and we can talk to you. Okay, because we may not be able to answer all your questions here. How many hours of sketching practice do you recommend on a daily basis? A lot. Minimum from now on, at least minimum 1.5 hours. If you can do more Saturday, Sunday, do more because speed is important. My tips are first ensure that your perspective is good, then be very good in your human animal sketches, right? Product sketches, and you should be able to draw fast. If you're not able to draw fast, no use. Okay. So coming to the last thing, time management. Um, um, for the first 2.5 hours, you have to answer part A. You can't look at the part B paper and vice versa. Okay, and you can't start the part B paper earlier. What I would say is the first thing you got to be very careful is you yourself study the number of questions for each type, and the total amount of marks per section. You will know. You will know personally. It will vary from student to student. Which are you strong in, NAT, MSQ, or MCQ, and which you take more time in generally. Okay. According to this, plan yourself. Okay. For you must try have 3 times. You should go through the paper thrice. The first time you go through the paper, go through it really fast. See the questions you know, answer the questions you know. If you have like a doubt 50-50, answer it, flag it, come back to it later. If you are if it's difficult, just leave it. Okay. So what at least you should spend within 60 to 70% of the time, 60% of the time you should go through the entire paper in one go. Okay, that is out of your 2.5 hours. Then you come for the second run. Second run, you go through all the questions that you have flagged. Okay, flagged all the questions, you kind of got them 50-50, you sort of know. Again, in the second round, if something is tough, just leave it. You would rather answer the ones that you know pretty well and get those right rather than just answering for the sake of answering. Of course, in NAT you can answer, there is no negative marking. And for multiple choice, you can take a chance. Okay. But MSQ, better not to. Try and stick to what you know, unless you're like 80% confident, you can kind of answer that. Okay. And the last run will be your last, say about 15-20 minutes of your paper. If there's anything that you've missed out, anything that, you know, a question that you flagged and you missed out, you can go back and answer that question. And part B, it's all a matter of speed. You should be so well practiced that you're literally not thinking, you're literally like going there. Already, like it'll just take you like a minute or 2 minutes to just give yourself an orientation, quick sketch, and start off. Okay, because you got to throw in as much as detail as you can in that half an hour. Like I said, it comes to practice. We are having, what do you say, crash courses. You can get in touch with us if you would like to know more information. Dion, yeah, I'm done. I'm sorry, there are more questions.
All right.
You can always get in touch with us on
Yeah.
a phone call, whatever. We can answer more questions. Okay.
Sure, sure. Sean, thank you so much. And for the students who don't have their questions answered yet, please reach out to our counselors. They will help you out. Like we mentioned in the description of this webinar, you'll find the contact us details there, or the inquiry form, so you can reach out to us over there. And all the best to you. Do and also, just to add to that, to what Sean said in terms of general knowledge, every Sunday we do something called a Design Nuances Edu series. That is a 1-hour webinar with an interaction with a design school, which talks about one aspect of design, right? So it could be wireframing in UI UX, or printing in textile design. So what is important is you may be trying for maybe UCEED, but it's important to for you to understand what's happening in the fashion design world, right? Or what, just to understand the nuances. So it's important whether the topic is relevant to your focus or not. Attend the series. It's a beautiful series. You get to understand what a design school does, and you also get to, a lot of takeaways. Now that those recordings are not shared on YouTube, they are not broadcast on YouTube. It is only for those who attend live. So please make sure that you connect with our counselors and get the links for that Zoom webinar, and attend that. That'll be very interesting. All right. All the best to you guys. Thanks so much for being such an interactive audience. Looking forward to more interactions with you. Please look out for the DQ conversation next week. Thanks.